Hey guys, welcome to my very first YouTube video, like official YouTube video. I'm really excited about this. I've been filming all day. I just posted all of my TikToks on my page and now I get to sit down and like dump all of this information into one long video and I'm so excited. But this is Severus Snape's entire life story, start to finish, 1960 to 1998. Let's go. Snape was born in January of 1960 to Muggle father Tobias and witch mother Eileen. Eileen's maiden name was Prince, if we're getting at where I'm getting at. So, Eileen was known to be neglectful. She was not a very caring mother. She was quite hostile, and she was a pureblood. His father was known as abusive, and this probably had something to do with his negative taste in his mouth from Muggles, is he watched his father do to him and do to his mother all these things for all these years. Family home was in Spinner's Inn, which is a very poor area in Cokeworth, and it was known to have a really nasty river running by, abandoned houses, decaying factories. It just wasn't a safe or nice place. The Evans home, I don't think it was in Spinner's Inn, but it was really close. Like it was just like right on the edge or right next to it. Snape spent his entire life in this home, and whenever he was not at Hogwarts, he always returned back to Spinner's Inn. At age 9, Snape first met Lily and Petunia, and he immediately was in love with Lily at first sight, but Petunia, he just didn't like her from the beginning. She was nasty, she was mean to Lily, and she was always making comments about Snape's clothes. I mean, Snape did not come from a good home. There was no good hygiene. Nobody was bathing him. Nobody was checking up after him. Nobody was making sure he had clothes that fit him. Nobody was making sure he was well fed. Like he just looked unwell all the time. In 1971, that was Severus and Lily's first year at Hogwarts. So they go to the train together. Lily doesn't know what's going on. She's not used to this magical world yet. So Snape is really her safe place for all of this. So they sit on the train together and they're ready for their first year. They're hanging out in the car, minding their own business, and James and Sirius come by to introduce themselves, and that was the first time Lily meets James, and the future Marauders meet Snape. In this conversation of James saying, like, I want to be in Gryffindor, they're so brave and strong, just like my dad, and Snape was like, yeah, if you prefer, bronze over brains. And then from there, it was just a feud. They were not going to agree with each other because Snape liked Slytherin and they just were never going to agree. And then once Lily got sorted into Gryffindor, Snape got worried and some tension started to rise. It was incredibly clear to both James and Snape that both of them liked Lily and neither of them knew how to handle it and neither of them liked each other and they were both going after the same girl, so that just caused a lot of drama. However, right after getting sorted into Slytherin, Lucius, who was in his 7th year, I think he was in his 7th year, he was in his 5th year because he was a prefect at the time. It was Lucius, he was a prefect, and he greeted Severus as he, came to the table, and he was very kind to him. Very kind, very pleasant. So Snape, made himself at home in Slytherin. Immediately, Snape excelled at Defense Against the Dark Arts because he came from a magical family and a pureblood mother. He probably had a lot of exposure growing up. And Sirius even states that Severus knew more than most 7th years did about Defense Against the Dark Arts. Because Snape was so far ahead of the rest of his classmates and all of their schoolwork and everything, he was able to have extra time to come up with all kinds of new spells. Snape was actually the inventor of Levicorpus and Mufiato, and he was also the inventor of curses Langlock and a toenail growth hex. Levicorpus is the spell where it just takes the victim by the ankle and dangles them upside down. Mufiato fills the victim's ears with unidentifiable buzzing. That just sounds horrible. Langlock is a curse that sticks the tongue of the victim, or it sticks the victim's tongue to the roof of their mouth. Somehow in their 5th year, some student heard or found out about Levicorpus and it spread like the school through wildfire and became an incredibly popular spell. But as we see in the movies, when we look into Snape's past, when James is bullying Snape, he uses Levicorpus against him. In that memory as well, James also removed Snape's pants to show his underwear to this large group of students that Lily Evans was also a part of. And at the end of this, Snape just goes into this verbal frenzy, lashing out at everyone, and he gets out of control and he calls Lily the M word that I will not say. I won't say it. But this all happens in their 5th year. So it is after Snape calls her this that they are no longer friends, and she just completely turns her back on him. But she still cares for him. She still wishes that they could fix things. She still, thinks about him, worries about him, and all those things. But as he grows deeper and deeper and deeper with the other Slytherins and white blood supremacists, she's just not accepted in that group. So they just grow apart completely. And once he graduates and fully joins the Death Eaters, she just really doesn't like it at all, and they have nothing to do with him. Backing up a little bit more though, while at Hogwarts, Snape was a part of the Slug Club. He was likely asked to join because of his skills in potion making. As we know, he is the Half-Blood Prince, and he was Slughorn's replacement after he retired. I can't think of the word right now, but you know what I mean. However, Slughorn did keep Snape's photograph as, on his mantle, on his little shelf of all of his students that he was proud of. But Snape's picture was actually kept to the back because he wasn't really sure of how successful Snape was going to be or the kind of person he was. So while Slughorn did think he was a wonderful student and a fantastic potions master, he didn't have very high hopes for him, so he kind of hid his picture in the back. Severus was kind of getting on to them that they were going down to the Whomping Willow. He was kind of getting on to, Lupin was disappearing every month and things like that. So Sirius thought it was going to be really funny to tell Snape to go down to the Whomping Willow on a full moon. And right before he went in down the steps, James grabbed him because he didn't know that there was going to be a werewolf down there. He didn't know what he was getting into. So James grabs him and saves his life. After this incident, all the Marauders and Snape and Dumbledore, they all had a conversation, everything, and then Dumbledore spoke with Snape, and he made Snape swear to secrecy about Lupin's secret, and that is why Snape never told until he got him fired. It was in their 7th year at Hogwarts that James finally mellowed out a little bit and Lily agreed to date him. Snape was incredibly hurt by this. It was very painful for him to watch, his bully date the love of his life, but he chose his friends and he continued to grow deeper and deeper in friendship with Bellatrix, Rudolphus, Rosier, Wilkes, and all of them, and they were all described as wannabe Death Eaters, so they didn't join while they were at Hogwarts. They all joined after they finished their 7th year, but it was very, very, very clear the whole time that that was the path that they were on. This group graduates in 1978, and Snape is a Death Eater for about a year and a half. So I would assume he joined after he finished his schooling, which was the spring of 78. So he joined at some point that summer, quickly rose in the ranks and became part of Voldemort's inner circle and was very highly trusted because of his position at Hogwarts. I believe it was early 1980 when Sybil came to interview for the position at Hogwarts with Dumbledore in the upper room of Hogshead. And during this meeting, that is when Sybil first told the prophecy about there are 2 boys born at the end of July. He shall have the power to vanquish the Dark Lord. Snape, a Death Eater, knew this interview was happening, was hanging about, and was eavesdropping outside of that door. Aberforth saw Snape and apprehended him and told Dumbledore that he caught him, told him that Snape ran off probably to tell Voldemort and that they were compromised. So at this point, Dumbledore pretty much chose to hire Sybil simply just to keep her safe, because Snape didn't hear the full prophecy, so he knew that they would be coming after Sybil for the rest of the prophecy, so they kind of had to keep her. When Snape first spilled the tea to Voldemort, he knew that there were 2 boys that could have been chosen, but once he realized Harry was an option and Harry was the one that Voldemort was going after, he first asked Voldemort to spare Lily's life. Knowing that he wouldn't do that, he didn't trust it, he then went to Dumbledore for help. Dumbledore, knowing that Voldemort knew, knowing the plan, he used this to his advantage, and he was like, yes, join my side and I will hide them away. I'll hide them all away. I'll do what I can to keep Lily alive. Now, this may be my personal belief and conclusion. I don't know. Let me know what you think and feel. But I feel like Snape asking Voldemort to spare Lily's life put him in the position to tell her, move aside or you're gonna die. And Lily's like, I'm not moving to the side. You're gonna have to kill me if you want to get to him. And that was the true sacrifice that saved Harry's life. So in my opinion, Snape saved Harry's life the first time. Lily saved Harry's life the first time. I'm not discounting that, but it was Snape's request to Voldemort that put her in a position where she wasn't just murdered to the side like James was. She actually got to sacrifice herself for Harry, thus marking him with her love. After Lily's death, Snape is completely inconsolable. He has no reason to live. He has no want to live. His life is over. He has betrayed Voldemort. There's no hope for him. He's done. And Dumbledore's like, dude, you got to get a grip. There's a kid that has no parents and he's going to need help because Voldemort's going to come back. And Snape's like, he's not going to come back. He's gone. It's fine. I don't care about this kid. And Dumbledore's like, no, he's going to come back. This isn't over yet. The prophecy is going to be fulfilled. This is the child the prophecy is about, and we have to protect him, and you're the only one that has the motivation to protect this child, the position to protect this child. I need you to help me protect this child. So Snape agrees simply out of his love for Lily. At this point, Snape is unliked and untrusted by everybody on Dumbledore's side, and he is, again, unliked, and everybody is skeptical of him on Voldemort's side of everything because everybody just sees him as Dumbledore's stooge over the years. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm fooling the greatest wizard of all time. Ha 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 ha. So Snape has no friends. Snape has no one. He literally has nobody but Dumbledore. After all of this happened, the next school year in 1981, Dumbledore asked Snape to come on as Potions Master. Snape obviously very much wanted Defense Against the Dark Arts position. He applied for it many times and was turned down. However, he was turned down because of the curse that Voldemort put on the position that no teacher could keep it for more than a year. And because of the role Snape needed to play, he needed Snape to stay at the school. So he couldn't give him that position, and he was so good at potions, he was like, please, just do potions, just stop, just do potions. Slughorn retired, Snape became Potions Master and head of Slytherin House. Now this was either because Slughorn was the last Slytherin teacher on staff, or because Dumbledore wanted eyes and ears on Slytherin, which is where the Death Eaters recruited straight out of. Snape was highly disciplined, and he kept a very rigid class and had zero tolerance for bullshittery or any kind of whatever. So he only wanted dedicated, motivated students that actually cared, because he took potions very seriously, because he knew the danger that they could cause, and he didn't want some student screwing around and hurting somebody or somebody else just because they weren't paying attention or taking the potion seriously. But this was what led Snape to his conclusion of only accepting students that had an outstanding in their owls into his Newt level classes, because they were the only ones that showed the dedication that he required to take these classes. As we know, Snape was a very prickly person. He wasn't warming. He wasn't easy to talk to. He wasn't somebody you really wanted to be around. He had to consider every single interaction and every single relationship he had for the rest of his life, because if somebody else was secretly a Death Eater or secretly on the other side, and if somebody else was at some point captured and tortured, they would have these memories and have these verbal things to say to Voldemort about Snape. He had to uphold every single second of every single day his role as a still Death Eater and behave in such a way that nobody could ever question him. However, that doesn't mean Snape didn't thoroughly enjoy the opportunities that he took, and probably a little bit of abuse of power, to bully students on his own to get back at all of the bullies that he couldn't have bullied back when he was getting bullied, if you know what I'm saying. If you follow what I'm tracking, if you picking up what I'm putting down. Anyway, I'm off topic. Jacob himself was expelled before Severus became the Potions Master at Hogwarts. However, Snape did go to school with Jacob and was there. I don't think he wasn't there when he got expelled. He got expelled the year that Snape was being a Death Eater, but like he knew who Jacob was, and he knew about the Cursed Vault, and he knew that this was going to be a problem. It was in the 84 to 85 school year that Snape first met Jacob's sibling, and the second he got sorted into Gryffindor, he was like, no, I have my eye on you. I don't trust you. You're going to be just as bad as your brother. Now, this whole part is entirely based off of the plot line of this video game about Cursed Vaults. And this was also how I got my information on Charlie and Bill Weasley. This is the only information that we really know about them, but this is a really fun storyline that we get to follow. In the 84 to 85 school year, Snape had a favorite student Morella Snide, and Morella excelled in potions class, and to his surprise, so did Jacob's sibling. He didn't really have high hopes for him, and even at a couple times Morella was having a hard time or messed up on her potions, Jacob's sibling was actually able to help her, to Snape's surprise. Because Jacob's sibling and Morella had a little bit of beef going on, they had scheduled a duel one night. And basically Snape and Flitwick walk in as Jacob's sibling had already disarmed Morella. Snape then told Jacob's sibling and Morella to go get cleaned up and meet him in his office for punishment. He reamed them out, and then Filch actually needed his help because he found a cursed ice vault had been opened and there was some cursed ice everywhere. So Snape went to handle that, and unknowingly Jacob's sibling and Morella followed him and discovered the vault because Snape led them straight to it. This was really the beginning of Snape versus the student body in a race for the cursed vaults, is basically what it feels like. The following school year, 95 to 96, Jacob's sibling continued to search for Jacob's sibling continued to search for the cursed vaults with Morella. Actually, during this school year, an unidentified student during potions class one day, he was a first year, he just ever so briefly mentioned Harry Potter, and Snape hurled a jar of pickled animal parts at him just at the mention of Harry's name. Because this was the first time Snape had heard his name in years. More students found the cursed ice vault, and Ben Cooper had to be saved by McGonagall with this whole fire spell because he got stuck in the ice. In this school year, Snape was also celebrated in an article of teacher appreciation by a student called Penny Harwood. Snape searched Jacob's siblings' dorm room and found a bunch of potion ingredients that were incredibly useful in going into these cursed vaults, so he knew he was guilty about going into the cursed vaults, and he took all of his stuff and he was in trouble. It's actually later revealed in the plot that Morella was actually the one driving like all of this. In the 96 to 97 school year, Snape asked Filch for help getting Jacob's letter, which was transfigured into a black quill from Jacob's sibling. Jacob's sibling stole the black quill, and it was like this whole other plot line. Because of this quill, which was actually Jacob's letter, Jacob's sibling and another student named Tulip was actually able to get a lot closer to finding the third vault, as well as finding Jacob's corridor in Hogwarts. Tulip had the key for one of the locks to get into this cursed vault, but Morella Snide, who is no longer friends with them at this point, had the other key. So they had to set off like one of those dung bomb little prank things, and then they took the key from her, and Tulip and Jacob's sibling got into the vault, but they were stopped by a boggart that took the form of Lord Voldemort, and Snape came in just in time and saved them. So Patricia Rakepick was this older student while Snape was at Hogwarts that was also a Gryffindor that actually helped mentor the Marauders in their pranks and such. She was basically the Fred and George of their age. Patricia Rakepick went on after Hogwarts to become a curse breaker for Gringotts, and she was brought back to Hogwarts by Dumbledore in the 87 to 88 school year to help with the whole curse vault situation. He never liked Rakepick, and Jacob's sibling was immediately suspicious of her because A, she was there to investigate him because of what he was doing, and he wasn't supposed to be doing what he was doing. Snape was like, yeah, we should keep our eye on her because I don't trust her either. I do think she's up to something else. We need to pay attention, but with a grain of salt because Dumbledore does trust her and I trust Dumbledore. Jacob's sibling was setting up his whole evening. He had planned all day long that he was going to go to the Forbidden Forest that night and find the next vault. Snape saw him, broke his broomstick, was like, you're not going anywhere. You have to help me investigate Rakepick. I need you to spy on her. Rakepick did know that they were spying, and she never gave any indication that she had anything to hide. So they kind of ended up determining that the spying was useless, but still kept it a secret. And Jacob's sibling was still taking orders from Snape to continue doing that. To help Jacob's sibling in his quest and everything, and to keep himself, he also gave him Garroting gas, which I'll get to why that's important in a minute. But at the end of this school year, Rakepick was hired as the defense against the dark. In the 88 to 89 school year, Jacob's sibling was in his search for the fifth vault, and Snape was pissed that Rakepick was around and very suspicious and always watching her. Under Dumbledore's orders, Snape taught Jacob's sibling legitimacy and occlumency this year. When they end up in the buried vault, Rakepick betrays Morella and Jacob's sibling used that Garroting gas to save his and Morella's life from the Cruciatus curse that Rakepick tried to cast on them. This was also the school year that Jacob's sibling Charles and Bill Weasley were all at Hogwarts together, and they were already on to Scabbers the rat at this point, because in the Great Hall, Jacob's sibling would be inspecting Scabbers like, there's something wrong with this rat, we gotta figure it out. Jacob's sibling also had a rat of his own, and they would like compare them and all these things, and Snape kept telling them like, a rat is not supposed to be in the Great Hall, get this out of here. And at one point, both of the rats ran away when Snape was getting on to them because they were afraid of Snape. Found their 2 rats and continued their research and everything on them, but then they decided that they needed a potion from Snape to help soothe the anxiety of the rats. It was this rat tonic that Snape helped Jacob's sibling and Charles Weasley make this potion, and they were like noting that the rat was particularly afraid of Snape. But as we know, that was not Scabbers, that was Peter Pettigrew, and Peter Pettigrew was afraid of Snape. Now in the 89 to 90 school year, Rakepick has been fired for her betrayal. At the start of this school year, this girl named Beatrice Haywood, who was the sibling of Penny, the one that did the whole interview thing about Snape in the teacher appreciation post, she found a petrified student because of the statue curse. Snape and Jacob's sibling deduced that the children that were petrified by the statue curse had this texture on them that reminded them of the trident of the Mer people in the Black Lake. Unfortunately, Madame Pomfrey was also struck by the statue curse, so any student that was petrified, she couldn't help. So it was up to Snape and Professor Sprout to take care of the whole student body against the statue curse. 90 to 91 school year, Jacob's sibling went to Snape to get flu powder so that way he could go to the Ministry to do this whole work experience thing. The Ministry was trying to capture this fugitive werewolf that they like couldn't get their hands on or anything. So Snape was teaching his 7th years how to brew wolfsbane potion. This year there was also this like hair care potion thing that at its base was this like sleeping potion because of this combination between lavender and something else, I can't remember. But anyway, so Snape and Jacob's sibling worked together, and I think it was Penny as well, worked together to make a counter serum and to fix this up. If you are still watching and you've made it this far into the video, finally we are at Philosopher's Stone, the very first book of the Harry Potter series. So this is the 91 to 92 school year, Harry Potter's very first year at Hogwarts. I really truly love the structure and the perspective of Philosopher's Stone, that you don't know if you can trust Snape or not. Like, you don't know who the bad guy is, you don't know what's going on. And I love that we almost get to go through all 7 books with Harry, not truly knowing that you can trust him or not. Now, granted, as the audience, we did have more information than Harry did himself, but you almost get to go through that same experience with him of finding out everything. Snape was very suspicious of Quirrell from the very beginning of the school year. I mean, he came back with a totally new look, some really weird habits, all kinds of weird whisperings to himself all the time. Like, he was just being weird. And Snape's suspicions were officially confirmed on Halloween when Snape caught him going to snuggle Fluffy upstairs after this troll was let into Hogwarts. Next time Quirrell makes an attempt at Harry, Snape is right there to make the counter curse on Harry's broom. However, everybody thinks it's Snape and nobody really knows what's going on. So when the next Quidditch match rolls around and Snape is on the field as referee, everybody looks at Harry like, you're screwed, dude. He's coming after you. And then Dumbledore's sitting up in the stands, so they think that Dumbledore is there to keep They think Dumbledore is there to keep Harry safe from Snape, but Snape is actually there to keep Harry safe from Quirrell. After his suspicions were confirmed, Snape started following Quirrell around everywhere and even followed him into the Forbidden Forest, where he was going to drink unicorn blood to stay alive. And he was like, I know you're weird, I know what you're doing. I know you're trying to get the stone and you're not gonna get it because you'll never get past my potion riddle. Hey, are you coming to snuggle your mommy? This is like a self-heating pad, so when he lays on it, his body heat like radiates heat, and I like putting it in a place where like the sun hits it because I think it makes it even warmer. And he's just a sun kitty. Now, during this conversation in the Forbidden Forest, Snape and Quirrell had no idea Harry was listening from the treetops, because Harry was at the Quidditch shed and he saw Snape following Quirrell into the forest, so that he hopped on his little broom and followed them both out there. But what Harry overheard was he thought Snape was trying to get information out of Quirrell about the stone, when he was really just trying to scare Quirrell off. I personally was deeply devastated by Snape's riddle not being in the movie. So I read this for my TikTok and I'm going to read it for you too. Here is Snape's riddle that we should have heard about the potions that was protecting the Sorcerer's Stone. Danger lies before you while safety lies behind. 2 of us will help you, whichever you would find. 1 among us 7 will let you move ahead. Another will transport the drinker back instead. 2 among our numbers hold only nettle wine. 3 of us are killers, waiting hidden in line. Choose unless you wish to stay here forevermore. To help you in your choice, we give you these clues 4. First, however slyly the potion tries to hide, you will always find some on nettle wine's left side. Second, different are those who stand at either end, but if you would move onward, neither is your friend. Third, as you see clearly, all are different size. Neither dwarf nor giant hold death on their insides. Fourth, the second left and the second on the right are twins once you taste them, though different first at sight. I love that riddle. I literally, when I was 9 years old, stopped reading, closed my book, put it down, and just contemplated the entire thing and tried to figure it out myself. I did, by the way, in case you were wondering, I did figure out the riddle. I just wanted to be Hermione. I just wanted to be Hermione so bad. Also, can we talk about the fact that Hermione Granger loved the books like any normal kid growing up and had her father reading them to her as a child before bed growing up, and she just felt so connected and loved Hermione so much and then went on to play her in the movies. I love the Harry Potter reunion so much. 92 to 93 school year, Harry Potter's second year, Chamber of Secrets is open and Lockhart has plagued the school. Snape was the first to apprehend Ron and Harry after their little joyride into a whomping willow that's been on these grounds since before they were born, and he was pissed. However, he knew that Harry could not get expelled because he couldn't risk him losing the protection of Dumbledore or Snape's watchful eye. So Snape pretended to call on Dumbledore and McGonagall, who then came and McGonagall took over the punishment, and Dumbledore was like, you can't get rid of them. I can't get rid of them. Like, they're not going anywhere. And the Chamber of Secrets has been opened, and the trio now has a reason to brew Polyjuice Potion, and they've been sneaking into Snape's stores to steal the ingredients for said Polyjuice Potion. Snape actually uses legitimacy to read Harry's mind to find out what they're actually doing. And Harry really just describes it in the book of, it felt like Snape was looking at him like he could read his mind, but we both know that Snape could read his mind. Snape actually went to Dumbledore with this information because he was pissed, and Dumbledore was like, if you don't calm down, like if Harry gets in trouble again, we're gonna have to expel him. So you have to let this go, because we can't expel him. Snape also joined Lockhart in Snape and Lockhart were head of the dueling club this year, and it was very, very, very clear that Snape hated every single second that he was in the presence of Lockhart and would constantly glare at him, would make him shy away with just a look, like just was very clear about how he felt. Snape was just always irked by Lockhart all the time, just hated being in his presence and just was really unhappy about being there. However, I do have a theory that Dumbledore forced him to do it so that way the students still learned some actual decent skills from a professor, since they had a phony Defense Against the Dark Arts professor that year. One day at Dueling Club, Snape pairs Harry and Draco together, and he's encouraging Draco to really not hold back. Once Snape sees Harry speaking Parseltongue, he gets really concerned and really suspicious, and he makes the Snake, for the love of God, Snake go away. And then Harry kind of just like runs out of there. And flash forward to Valentine's Day, Lockhart releases these cupids into the school and everybody's pissed and annoyed. Snape is at his wit's end with this guy at this point, and especially when Lockhart suggests to students that Snape brews them love potions, and Snape just looks. Once Ginny is unfortunately taken into the Chamber of Secrets, Snape's incredibly concerned, but he does use this opportunity to goad Lockhart into basically exposing himself as a phony. He either knew Lockhart would go down in the chamber and die there, or he would run and be exposed as a phony. So Snape was like, hey Lockhart, I heard you talking about you knew where the monster was. Don't you know what's going on? Aren't you so good at all this stuff? Like, haven't you been running your mouth all damn year? Why don't you go handle it now? Moving on to 93 to 94, Harry's third year. Lupin is hired on as the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and Snape is automatically suspicious of him because A, his senses are heightened, that Sirius Black is out on the run, and he knows he's coming for Harry. He knows Lupin used to be his best friend, so he does not think that Lupin can be trusted. Snape does continue to produce and brew. However, Nevertheless, Snape continues to brew Wolfsbane potion for Lupin the entire year, and even after exposing him at the end of this year, he continues to brew and provide him Wolfsbane potion. This was likely because Remus was never the one to bully Snape. He didn't stop them, but he was never the one to do it. So while Snape held a grudge against him, he did know, and he was consciously aware that Remus did not have the heart to do things like that. So Snape did show him some kindness in that respect. Then we get to the point where Lupin's out and Snape has to fill in for the Defense Against the Dark Arts class that day, and he just teaches them about werewolves, and he looks around and he's like, really? Nobody can put 2 and 2 together that it's the full moon today and your professor's not here? Really? As Snape is constantly searching the school for Black, constantly has his eye on Lupin, always in Dumbledore's ear telling him that Lupin can't be trusted and what to do, and watching Harry and all the stuff, all of the above. Thank goodness he's watching, because he sees them going out to the Whomping Willow and he's got to go intervene and save everybody's butt. Snape follows the trio out to the Whomping Willow, and Harry actually left his invisibility cloak right outside of the step down under the Whomping Willow. So Snape takes that, puts it on, sneaks into the Shrieking Shack, gets up behind Remus, reveals himself, and starts tying Remus up while yelling at everybody and starts yelling at everybody. The Golden Trio then tries to defend Remus and tell Snape what's going on. He's not listening to them, so they take matters into their own hands and all hit him with Expelliarmus at the same time, causing him to knock out. Else with the group that is still in the Shrieking Shack gets situated. Peter is revealed. They start dragging everybody out. Remus turns into a werewolf. Sirius tries to fight him to protect the children. Sirius gets gravely injured. The werewolf gets drawn off. Harry and Hermione go after Sirius to the lake. Ron is left there with a hurt leg. Snape comes out. He sees all of these children all over the place hurt. He goes and he gets a passed out Harry, Hermione, and Sirius from the lake. He grabs Ron. He takes everybody back up to the castle. Also, mind you that when you turn a time turner, that's 1 hour. One turn is 1 hour. So they went back 3 hours, meaning all of that from start to finish, from Buckbeak to the Shrieking Shack to ending up in the hospital room, 3 hours. Once everybody got back to Hogwarts and was okay and was being taken care of in the hospital wing, Snape absolutely made sure that all 3 of Ron, Harry, and Hermione got their punishment for what they did to him. Now we got to Goblet of Fire. Moody, who is actually Barty Crouch Jr., walks into the school. The Goblet of Fire has been, revealed and everything. We're starting the Triwizard Tournament. Harry's name pops out and Snape looks at him with fear, but also anger, but also confusion. And Snape does not believe Harry that he didn't put his name in there, because he thinks Harry can have the same arrogance that James had. He thinks Harry has the potential to be arrogant enough to do something like that, because that sounds like something James would have done. Barty Crouch Jr., who was disguised as Moody, was actually going into Snape's office and looting it. Snape would catch him in his office looting him, but it was Moody, and he would be like, "It's Dumbledore's orders. I'm just keeping an eye on you. I'm a trusted ex-Auror, and I'm just keeping an eye on you." And yeah, so Snape couldn't do anything about it. Snape couldn't say anything about it. He knew Moody was going into his office and he knew stuff was being taken, but he didn't think Moody was taking it. He thought Moody was just watching him for some reason, even though Dumbledore trusted him. I don't really know why he didn't question that more, but yeah, so he still thought that Harry, Ron, and Hermione were taking the stuff for Polyjuice Potion, because they did that in the second year. Now, throughout this year, Snape is incredibly aware of the growing threat that's happening, and that Voldemort will be returning soon, because his dark mark is burning and protruding more and more and more throughout the year. Igor Karkaroff also feels the same thing and comes to Snape out of fear. So that scene we see in the movies where Igor's showing Snape his dark mark and we think something weird and sketchy is going on, no. Karkaroff is shaking in his boots. He's like, Voldemort's coming. I'm going to serve retribution. I ratted everybody out. I was a snitch. He's going to come for me. And Snape's like, I have literally nothing to fear, so I'm chilling. And so after Voldemort returns, Karkaroff runs for the hills. It's also during this year that Harry got nosy in Dumbledore's office, even though Dumbledore actually left his pensive bowl out on purpose, knowing Harry would get nosy, that Harry then saw the trial of Igor Karkaroff and that he had ratted everybody out, and that Dumbledore had made the announcement that Snape had turned spy for them and was actually a good guy. while then still instilling the idea that Snape can be trusted while still never telling him why he can be trusted. Honestly, I think one of the funniest moments in all of the Harry Potter movies is Snape's face when he sniffs, when they find out that Moody's Barty Crouch and they do the truth serum, and then he sniffs the Polyjuice potion and then turns around and he whips his head at Harry. That's the funniest moment in all of the movies to me. I cackle at that. Actually, at the end of this movie, when Dumbledore then meets with Fudge to convince him and tell him that Voldemort has returned, he takes Snape with him and he uses Snape. So Dumbledore takes Snape with him as proof that Voldemort has returned because Snape can show him the dark mark and the activity with his dark mark. And that is their proof that Voldemort has returned. Snape also then has to confess to Fudge that Sirius is innocent. So he then fights to Fudge that Sirius, somebody who bullied him his whole life, was innocent. But Fudge was like, I'm not listening to any of this. Sirius is a fugitive. Voldemort's not back. You're all crazy. Get out of my face. Snape is also forced to shake Fudge's hand at the end of this, and he is incredibly uncomfortable with it. We then end the Goblet of Fire with Dumbledore tasking Severus with the mission of being a double agent and returning to Voldemort. Snape spends his summer going between Voldemort's meetings and Order of the Phoenix meetings, going back and forth, telling the Order what they know, while also taking every opportunity he can to tease Sirius that Sirius can't leave the house because he's a fugitive, but then taking his orders from Dumbledore and going back and telling Voldemort exactly what he is supposed to tell him. After Harry's vision of Arthur Weasley getting attacked and Harry starts his legitimacy lessons and occlumency lessons with Snape, and the tensions really start to rise, this is probably because Snape is really afraid of Harry finding out anything. If Harry even a little bit gets into Snape's mind, he will find out that he's A, a double agent, B, that he loves Harry's mother, and everything will be compromised because Voldemort can still access Harry's mind. Harry cannot know any of this. It is incredibly important that Snape's identity and his true nature of everything remains a secret. So when Harry gets a little nosy while Sirius is out of the not Sirius, for the love of God. So when Harry gets a little nosy when Snape is out of the office and he looks inside his pensive bowl, it is because Snape gets so angry, A, because it's a huge violation of privacy, B, because Harry saw Snape's literal quoted worst memory, because that is the day that he called Lily the M-word and they lost their friendship forever. But it was also because he was afraid of Harry finding out that he loved Lily or that he was a double agent because, like I said, his mind was vulnerable, and that was why he threw him out, because he didn't want to compromise himself, his own role, or Harry's safety. Throughout the year, it does seem as if Snape is supportive of Umbridge as he is continuing to give her Veritaserum. I can't say that word. It does seem that Snape is being supportive of Umbridge throughout this book as he's continuing to give her truth serum, but it's actually revealed at the end of the book that he was giving her fake potions all year long and she wasn't actually using truth serum. But once she has captured Harry and the rest of his friends as they're going to help Sirius, and Snape comes in because Umbridge has asked him to come in to give her more truth serum, he probably lied. It probably was a lie that she had used the rest of it because he was giving her fake serum anyway. He could have just gone to get her fake serum, I guess, but it probably did run out. I don't know. When Harry gives the encrypted warning to Snape, Snape acts like he doesn't know what he's talking about, runs and passes the message along. He takes it to Grimmauld Place, makes sure that everybody knows, everybody in the Order has been alerted from all of their various places. And Snape then goes to follow Harry, Hermione, and Umbridge into the Forbidden Forest to keep an eye on them and keep them safe. Now, remember when I said at the beginning of this little section about Order of the Phoenix that Snape would take as many opportunities as he could to make Sirius feel bad that he couldn't leave the house? So, yeah, Sirius decided to leave the house this time to go save his godson, and he didn't come back. And Harry blames Snape because of his teasing that Sirius felt the need to come out that time, and he blamed Snape for being the reason that Sirius died that day. I'm good. All right, 96 to 97 school year. Snape has finally been made the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, and again, he's only that teacher for a year. It is the summer before that school year, it's July of 1996, that Dumbledore finds Tom Riddle's father's ring and puts it on. His whole hand is cursed. He is now doomed to death because of it. Snape is very skilled and he's able to contain it to Dumbledore's hand, but they both know that Dumbledore only has maybe a year to live. Now, we also know at this point that Voldemort has tasked Draco with killing Dumbledore as punishment for the Malfoy family for what Lucius did in the last book. Dumbledore A wants to protect Draco, but B, he doesn't want to die a slow, painful death. He's miserable. He's really old. Nobody knows how old he is. I probably should look it up. I would rather just live in the mystery, honestly. But he's old. He's tired. He's cursed. He wants to be put out of his misery. So he's like, Severus, I'm begging you, please, I need you to do this because I trust you to do it. So I believe it is over the summer that Snape and Dumbledore have this conversation, because Snape does end back up at Spinner's End in his family home, because that's where Bellatrix and Narcissa approach him about the Bellatrix approach him about the unbreakable vow. Snape is able to make that unbreakable vow confidently because he knows that he is the one that needs to kill Dumbledore. However, the school year has now started, and as Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, Snape has made a big turnaround in his attitude. He is nice to Hermione. He is letting her answer questions. He is no longer showing favoritism to Slytherin students and is furious with Crabbe and Goyle, who had to repeat their 5th year and were still doing poorly in his classes. So he was giving punishments out to them. It was a lot fairer, and he was a lot more level-headed this year. So as Dumbledore knows, his time is coming to an end and he has to make the most of it. So he is starting to spend a lot of time with Harry, preparing him for this Horcrux hunt that he's about to embark on next year. So because of Harry and Dumbledore spending a lot more time together, Snape is feeling left out of the loop, and he actually gets really frustrated with Dumbledore because he feels like Dumbledore trusts Harry more than he trusts him. So he's like, Dumbledore, why aren't you talking to me? Why aren't you telling me what's going on? What are you and Harry talking about all the time? Like, I need to know. And Dumbledore's like, you need to focus on Draco. You have enough to deal with. I'm gonna go do this. So they have this whole spat about at the edge of the Forbidden Forest, and Hagrid overhears all of it actually. Spring term rolls around, and this is when Dumbledore finally tells Snape everything. He tells him that Harry must die, that it must be Voldemort that does it. He tells him his entire plan, that whole scene where he says you've been raising him like a pig for slaughter, and Snape is pissed. This happens in the spring of 1997. This is also when Dumbledore asks Snape to be the headmaster after he is gone, so that way he can ensure that there is somebody in that position that is in the good graces of the Death Eaters. And knowing that the Death Eaters were going to take over the Ministry, were going to take over Hogwarts, this was the only person that could stay in power. Like, if he put McGonagall in charge, they would have booted poor girl out of there, and she would have had a really hard time. Like, it makes perfect sense that McGonagall should have been the next headmaster, but like, when you actually think about it, Snape is the only one that could have survived in that position, because McGonagall never could have handled the Caro siblings or all of that other stuff. Snape was the only one that was able to do it because nobody was going to question his motives. So he was able to protect the students in a way that McGonagall never could if she was headmaster. So when something would happen, instead of allowing the Caro siblings to enact their own punishment, Snape would then send the students into the Forbidden Forest with Hagrid to get them out of the castle, away from the Caro siblings, and have a more pleasant punishment with a safe adult. So then we have the whole bathroom scene where Harry and Draco are attacking each other. I mean, Draco's crying in the bathroom, and Harry's like, Sectum Centra! I mean, a little, I paraphrased. I spliced that up a bit. You give me some grace. It's fine. So yeah, Snape comes in, he sees that his signature spell that nobody should ever know about has been used, and he starts questioning Harry, like, where did you learn this? How did you know this? Show me all of your books right now. So Harry goes and gets all of his books, but before he brings them back, he switches his potion book for Ron's potion book, and then he shows Snape, look, see, I've got nothing's going on here. Because of this, Snape gave Harry detention for every Saturday for the rest of the year, and McGonagall also added to Harry that he was incredibly lucky that his punishment wasn't worse, but this was, however, very likely because Snape did not want his identity revealed or the true nature of why he was so angry revealed. Also probably because Harry's gotten in trouble multiple times every single year, and he's really just on the chopping block to get expelled. Yeah. It was before Harry and Dumbledore went to go find the Slytherin locket that Harry ended up in a conversation with Sybil, where she then told him about the prophecy and about the fact that Snape was the one that overheard it and then sent then ran back to Voldemort and then was the reason Voldemort came after him and his parents. So then when Harry's on this little Horcrux hunt with Dumbledore, he's like, dude, Snape's literally the reason my parents are dead. Why should I trust him? He's like, Snape's the reason my parents are dead. Sirius is dead. Remus is gone. Everything. He's like, Snape is the reason everything in my life sucks. Why should I trust him? And Dumbledore just maintains that he should, and that he should just trust Dumbledore, that he should trust Snape. We then come back to the Battle of the Astronomy Tower, where Draco cannot do what he has been tasked to do, thankfully, and Dumbledore and Snape also have a conversation about Snape taking Dumbledore's life, because by murdering someone, that does have a very deep effect on a wizard's soul when they do enact that spell. Now, because it was Dumbledore's wish, they do have a conversation where they believe that it's not going to affect his soul in the same way that it would affect Draco's soul if he were to do it, because that would be murder, but Snape was doing it on his own account, or on his own wishes. So like it didn't affect his soul in such a negative way. So anyway, Snape fulfills his wishes to Dumbledore. He then does everything he can to deflect Harry's attacks. He does everything he can to just deflect Harry's spells and ignore him and try to get everybody out of there and not let anybody else attack Harry in return. And once Harry calls Snape a coward, it really strikes a chord with him, because I'm sorry, nobody is braver. Nobody puts their life more on the line than somebody who is being a double agent and lives every single day of their life wishing they were dead, doing something for somebody that has already died. Like, you do not call that man a coward. This just became biased. I tried so hard to be unbiased, this just became biased. Now, before his passing, Dumbledore and Snape put a lot of things in line so that way Snape could very easily go through and finish Dumbledore's plan and keep Harry safe. So, Snape was under direct orders to tell Voldemort the correct date that Harry was being moved, knowing that they would attack him, that Snape would be a part of the Death Eaters attacking them, and all this stuff. But they wanted to solidify Voldemort's trust in Snape. After telling them the correct date, I think it was after, Snape then finds Mundungus Fletcher and he's like, gives him, like basically feeds him the entire idea for the Seven Potters and how to hide Harry. So that way, even though the Death Eaters knew when he was being moved, they wouldn't know which Harry was which. So that was the only way that he could maintain trust, but also protect Harry at the same time. So he went and found Mundungus Fletcher, told him about the idea of the Seven Potters, then confounded his little memory, so that way he didn't remember Snape was the one that told him and he just thought he came up with it himself. So that's why it was important that Mundungus Fletcher was included during this whole group and everything. During the Battle of the Seven Potters, Stan Shankpike, what's his last name? The guy from the bus from the third movie, Stan, the bus guy from Prisoner of Azkaban. You all know him, you all love him. He's a Death Eater. He was there, and Snape was actually aiming for Stan with Sectum Sempra, but he was actually what sliced off George's ear. After the Battle of Seven Potters, Snape went to 12 Grimmauld Place to kind of get his bearings, go to the Order of the Phoenix one last time because he wasn't going to really be able to return after that. And in his searching of the Black family house, he found Lily's letter in Sirius's room. He then tore off her signature and her love and then took a family picture and tore her out of it and left with those. And Snape returned to Hogwarts as headmaster for the 97 to 98 school year. Like I was talking about earlier, he did his best to keep the Carrows in check and protect the students as much as he could, but he could only do so much, and as we saw in the movies, they looked really battered and beaten up. So, after Dumbledore leaves the Sword of Gryffindor in his will to Harry, they know that the Ministry is going to come to Dumbledore's office to try and inspect that sword. They've already switched it out. The real sword is behind Dumbledore's portrait, stuck in the wall. They've got it hidden. It's right there in the office. It never left. The fake one is being displayed. The Ministry comes and inspects it. They're like, okay, yeah, cool, that's good. Sure, whatever. So it continues to sit in Snape's office, but Ginny, Neville, and Luna are reorganizing Dumbledore's army to fight against Snape and the Carrow siblings. They have their whole room of requirement that they hide in and do all of these things, and Snape does everything he can to protect these guys, but they're defying the school, so like they're gonna get in trouble. Neville, Ginny, and Luna actually plan to break into Snape's office one night to steal the sword. Snape, however, catches them trying to break into his office and steal the sword, so he then takes the fake sword, gives it to Bellatrix to put in her vault at Gringotts, but he gives the three of them detention with Hagrid in the Forbidden Forest to keep them from, going to the Carrow siblings. Snape spends a lot of his time consulting with the portraits of the previous headmasters, particularly with Dumbledore, and the other one of note is Phineas Negulus Black. He used these portraits to keep an eye on Harry to make sure he was safe, and he also used them for advice on how to handle things throughout the school year. But when Phineas Black saw that Harry and Hermione were in the Forest of Dean, pretty sure it's the Forest of Dean, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, saw Harry and Hermione and knew where they were, Dumbledore's portrait then gave him the advice. He's like, take the sword, go give it to them right now. Now's the right time. So Snape finds them in the forest, puts the sword down there, uses his Patronus to lead Harry to it, and he just leaves them be from there. When Harry reveals himself in Hogwarts and they go, several other professors with McGonagall, I know Flitwick was one, went to go hold their wands up to Snape, and Snape could not keep up with McGonagall's spells. However, the Carrow siblings behind him, one of them immediately called Voldemort using the dark mark on their arm. So they were the ones that called Voldemort there, and that's how he knew where he was. Oh. Snape did not die in the boathouse. He died in the Shrieking Shack, where everything just loops back to. And I kind of wish that they had made it in the Shrieking Shack in the movies. Like, yeah, the boathouse is nice and easy. It's nice and close. Like, sure, it makes sense. But, like, the Shrieking Shack is so important to the entire storyline. It's so important to Snape's storyline. It's so important to Harry's storyline. It's so important to the entire storyline of all of the books. Like, that was just important to me. And then it was in the boathouse, and I was just so upset about it. But anyway, Voldemort calls Snape to the Shrieking Shack, and he explains to him that he believes Snape to be the master of the Elder Wand, and that's why it wasn't working. And he goes on his whole spiel of what he thinks wand work is, and Snape tried to tell him he was wrong. Snape tried to say something, anything. Before he could, Voldemort ordered Nagini to bite him in the neck, injected her venom, and kill him. Voldemort would not use the Elder Wand on Snape because he in his mind, because he thought Snape was the master of the Elder Wand, that the allegiance would be to him and that he could not kill him with it. So what actually happened to Voldemort when he fought Harry was what he thought was going to happen when he fought Snape, except that's not what was going on, and Snape died, and Harry took his memories and found out the truth about everything. And then in his final battle against Voldemort, he told Voldemort everything, that it was love that eluded him, that Snape was a double agent the whole time, that he didn't have any true followers, that it was his arrogance, that he was wrong about the wands, that he didn't even understand wand magic. He called him stupid. He didn't actually call him stupid, but basically. After his death, Snape's portrait was not immediately put in the headmaster's office. Harry had to make sure himself that one was put up there, and he always went and made sure that the portrait was taken care of. But the portrait was also known, there was also a portrait in the potions room that was known to ridicule students as they were screwing up their potions and stuff after his death. Guys, I've been filming for 6 hours. Oh my god, I spent 6 hours of my day talking about Severus Snape. I hope you guys thoroughly enjoyed this, because I love talking about Snape, and I was really excited for his video series to be the one that I started my YouTube with. So I really hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys next week. My plan is to start posting YouTubes every Sunday, and then I will be hanging out with you guys all week on TikTok. Have a wonderful, wonderful day and week, and whenever you're watching this, just be wonderful. Thank you for your love and support. Thanks for watching. More kisses.